Dimension by Elton Thomas, chapters 11 through 20. Chapter 11. Strange Glitches. Cole sat at his desk, the high-speed camera resting in his hands, its metallic surface cool beneath his fingers. The dim afternoon light filtered through his bedroom window, casting long shadows across the walls and giving the room a soft golden hue. He turned the camera over, examining each dial, each button, as though he were trying to unlock a hidden code. Ever since his conversation with Mick, a sense of urgency had lingered in his thoughts, a quiet insistence that he was on the edge of something profound, something he couldn't yet understand. He lifted the camera to eye level, peering through the viewfinder. The lens brought his room into sharp focus, every detail crisp and clear, but as he shifted his gaze, a faint flicker danced across the edge of the frame, a flash of light, quick and almost imperceptible. He adjusted the settings, his fingers moving slowly, deliberately, and brought the viewfinder back to his eye. And then, just as he was about to release the shutter, the viewfinder went dark, replaced by a brief flickering image of somewhere else. The sight startled him, his heart skipping as he struggled to process what he was seeing. Through the viewfinder, he glimpsed a landscape he didn't recognize. A vast field under a pale lavender sky, strange structures silhouetted against a faintly glowing horizon. It was only a split second, the image there and then gone, replaced by the familiar scene of his own room. He blinked, lowering the camera and staring at it as though it held a secret he hadn't yet uncovered. "What was that?" he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. He shook his head, trying to dismiss it as a glitch, an anomaly from the camera's old parts, or perhaps a result of his grandfather's modifications. But the memory of the image lingered in his mind, vivid and strange, a place that felt almost dreamlike, as if he'd caught a glimpse of another world. Cole glanced at his phone, where Mick's messages remained on the screen. Her words about silhouettes in her yard echoed in his mind, a strange parallel to his own experiences. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that these incidents were connected, woven together by invisible threads. His grandfather's camera was somehow showing him something beyond the boundaries of his own world, something he couldn't yet explain. Taking a deep breath, he lifted the camera again, adjusting the settings and holding it steady as he focused on the corner of his room. The viewfinder flickered, the lens struggling to maintain focus, and for a moment the image wavered, blurring as though it were caught between two places. And then, just as before, it happened. A brief, fleeting glimpse of a landscape that wasn't his own, as though the camera were peering through a crack in reality. This time, he saw a figure standing in the distance, their outline blurred against the shifting light. He couldn't make out any details, but there was an undeniable presence, a sense of something watching him, reaching out through the camera's lens. The figure vanished in an instant, leaving him staring at the familiar sight of his room once again. Cole lowered the camera, his mind racing. A cold shiver ran down his spine, a mix of fear and excitement tightening his chest. Could it be possible? Could the camera truly be showing him another dimension? He felt the urge to laugh at the absurdity of the thought, but deep down he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd glimpsed something real, something beyond the ordinary. His thoughts drifted to Dr. Kobe, to the lectures on parallel worlds and quantum superposition. He remembered the professor's words, the way he'd described dimensions layered on top of each other, existing in the same space but separated by boundaries invisible to the human eye. It had seemed theoretical, a concept too grand to fully grasp, but now, holding the camera in his hands, the idea felt tangible, a possibility he could almost touch. Lost in thought, he barely noticed his mother's footsteps as she entered the room, a soft smile on her face as she leaned against the doorframe. "Hey, honey," she said, her voice gentle. "You've been cooped up in here all day. Everything okay?" Cole looked up, his gaze thoughtful as he considered her question. He hesitated, wondering if he should share his suspicions, if she'd think he was imagining things or losing his grip on reality. But his curiosity outweighed his doubts, the need for answers pressing him forward. "Mom," he began slowly, his voice hesitant. Do you think other dimensions are real?" She tilted her head, her expression shifting to one of interest. "Other dimensions? Well, that's a pretty big question," she said, crossing the room and sitting on the edge of his bed. "What's got you thinking about that?" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Just some stuff we've been talking about in Dr. Kobe's class. Parallel worlds, quantum physics, things like that. Do you think it's possible? That there could be another dimension right here, but we just can't see it?" She smiled thoughtfully, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "Well, if there's one thing I've learned in science, it's that we barely understand our own world, let alone the universe. There's so much we don't know, things we can't explain. Other dimensions, parallel worlds, they're all possible, in theory." Cole leaned forward, his gaze intense. "So, you think there could be other versions of us, in other places right now?" She nodded slowly, her face thoughtful. "I think it's possible. Some physicists believe that every choice we make splits off into another dimension, a parallel reality where we took a different path. It's fascinating to think about, isn't it? That somewhere out there might be another version of you, living a different life, seeing things from a completely new perspective." Cole nodded, her words filling him with a sense of wonder. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying, a vast, unknowable mystery that defied logic. But it felt real somehow, as if the boundaries between worlds were thinner than he'd ever realized. "Your grandfather believed in it too," she added, her gaze softening as she looked at the camera in his hands. "He used to talk about the possibility of other worlds, of hidden dimensions just waiting to be discovered. He was always tinkering, always searching for a way to see beyond the ordinary." Cole glanced down at the camera, his chest tightening. His grandfather had been a scientist, a seeker of knowledge, a man who saw possibilities where others saw limits. Could he have been trying to find a way to access another dimension? Was that what the camera was designed for? He looked up at his mother, a hint of determination in his eyes. I think he might have been on to something." She reached over, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Maybe he was," she said, her voice soft. "But whatever he found, it's yours now. Just be careful, okay? Some things are meant to stay hidden." He nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for her understanding, for the quiet support she offered without needing to fully understand his questions. She rose to leave, casting him a final reassuring smile before stepping out of the room, leaving him alone with his thoughts. As the door closed behind her, Cole turned back to the camera, his mind buzzing with a renewed sense of purpose. The flickering images, the glitches that showed glimpses of another world, he could no longer dismiss them as mere malfunctions. There was a pattern, a logic hidden within the chaos, a message waiting to be deciphered. He adjusted the settings once more, his hands steady as he focused the lens, watching the viewfinder intently, his breath shallow with anticipation. The screen flickered again, a brief flash of movement, a faint silhouette that vanished before he could make out any details. But it was there, undeniable, a presence that lingered just beyond the edge of his perception. The image returned to normal, his room coming back into focus, but he knew he couldn't stop now. He was on the brink of something, standing at the edge of a discovery that went beyond anything he'd ever known. And as he held the camera, he felt his grandfather's spirit with him, a guiding force that urged him to keep going, to follow the path that had been left for him. The mysteries of the other dimension beckoned, the unknown stretching out before him like an open road. And for the first time, he felt ready to step forward, to leave behind the familiar and reach into the darkness, knowing that whatever lay ahead, he would face it head-on, determined to uncover the truth hidden within the lens. Chapter 12. Consulting Dr. Kobe. The next morning, Cole sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the high-speed camera resting on his desk. The strange glitches, the glimpses into places he couldn't explain, all of it weighed heavily on him, swirling in his mind like a riddle waiting to be solved. He could still see the figure he'd spotted through the lens, its silhouette a haunting reminder of the unknown that lingered just beyond his reach. And then there was his grandfather's legacy, the camera that felt as though it held a life of its own, leading him deeper into the mysteries it contained. He reached for his backpack, carefully tucking the camera inside before heading out the door. Today, he would speak to Dr. Kobe. Of all the people he knew, his physics teacher was the only one who might understand what he was experiencing, someone who could help him make sense of the anomalies he was seeing. Dr. Kobe had spent a lifetime exploring the boundaries of physics, venturing into theories others dared only to imagine. If anyone could help him approach this scientifically, it would be him. The crisp autumn air greeted Cole as he walked down the bustling hallways of Tremble High. The chatter and laughter of students surrounded him, but he was lost in his own world, focused entirely on the questions racing through his mind. He reached Dr. Kobe's classroom, finding the teacher at his desk, flipping through a well-worn textbook with pages marked by countless sticky notes. Dr. Kobe looked up, his eyes crinkling in a warm smile when he saw Cole. "Ah, Mr. Noble," he greeted, setting down his book. "What brings you to my lair so early?" Cole felt a surge of relief at the familiar tone, and his lips lifted into a faint smile. But as he opened his backpack and pulled out the camera, his expression grew serious. "Dr. Kobe, I need your help," he said, his voice quiet but steady. Dr. Kobe's gaze shifted to the camera. His interest piqued. He leaned forward, folding his hands on the desk, his eyes sharp with curiosity. "Well, well, that sounds intriguing," he said. "What seems to be the matter?" Cole took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. I've been seeing things through this camera." He placed it on the desk between them, his fingers brushing against the cool metal. "Images, glitches. I can't explain it, but they're not from here. It's like I'm looking at places that aren't part of our world." Dr. Kobe's eyebrows lifted, but there was no skepticism in his gaze, only quiet contemplation. He tilted his head, his fingers tapping lightly against the desk as he considered Cole's words. "Interesting," he murmured, reaching out to inspect the camera. "So you're saying you've captured images that don't fit into any natural explanation?" Cole nodded, his heart pounding. "Yes. I've seen landscapes I don't recognize, shapes that seem, well, they seem like people but not here. Almost like another dimension." He hesitated, glancing up at Dr. Kobe's face, unsure if he sounded crazy. But Dr. Kobe only smiled, his expression calm, as though he'd been waiting for this moment. "You know, there's a theory in quantum mechanics that speaks to this," he said, his voice thoughtful. "It's called quantum superposition. In layman's terms, it suggests that particles can exist in multiple states at once, in different places, in different realities, layered over each other. It's only when we observe them, when we focus our attention, that they choose a state, collapsing into a single reality." Cole listened intently, feeling a flicker of understanding take root in his mind. "So, you're saying these glitches, these images, they could be from another reality?" Dr. Kobe leaned back in his chair, his gaze thoughtful as he considered the question. "It's possible. If we take quantum mechanics to its logical extreme, then yes, there's a chance that what you're seeing could be echoes from another dimension, another layer of reality that exists parallel to our own. But that's the tricky thing about quantum physics. It's all theoretical. We've yet to see definitive proof. Cole's pulse quickened, his mind racing as he absorbed Dr. Kobe's words. The idea was overwhelming, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. He looked down at the camera, feeling a sense of awe, as though it held answers to questions that went beyond the scope of human understanding. Dr. Kobe's voice broke through his thoughts, gentle but firm. "If you're serious about exploring this, Mr. Noble, I would encourage you to approach it scientifically," he said, his gaze steady. "Document what you see, record your observations, look for patterns. Treat this as an experiment, one that might yield insights into something far beyond our current knowledge." Cole nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "So, you think I should keep looking? Keep using the camera to see what it shows me?" Dr. Kobe's smile was warm, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "Yes, but with caution. Science is a journey of discovery, but it's also a matter of discipline. Don't let your imagination cloud your observations. Focus on what's real, on what you can prove. And if what you're seeing truly is an anomaly, something beyond our understanding, then perhaps you're meant to be the one to uncover it." Cole's chest tightened with a mixture of excitement and responsibility. His grandfather had left him this camera for a reason. He was certain of it now. Dr. Kobe's words resonated deeply, giving him a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt before. "Thank you," he said softly, his gaze steady. "I won't let you down, Dr. Kobe." Dr. Kobe chuckled, waving a dismissive hand. "Oh, it's not about letting me down, Mr. Noble. It's about satisfying that curiosity within yourself, that drive to understand the mysteries of our world. Physics is as much an art as it is a science. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts." He glanced at the camera, his expression thoughtful. "And as for your grandfather, Ben Noble was one of the most inquisitive minds I ever had the pleasure of knowing. I wouldn't be surprised if he was working on something extraordinary with this camera. Maybe he left it to you so you could finish what he started." Cole's heart swelled, a deep sense of connection to his grandfather, filling him with gratitude and wonder. The camera felt heavier in his hands, more significant, a legacy that had been passed down not just as an object, but as a calling, a responsibility. "Do you think," Cole began, his voice tentative, "do you think he was trying to see into another dimension?" Dr. Kobe leaned forward, his gaze steady. "It's possible. Your grandfather was a visionary. He believed in the unknown, in the possibility of worlds beyond our comprehension. And if he left this to you, then perhaps he saw in you the same curiosity, the same hunger for discovery." A quiet sense of purpose filled the room, a bond between teacher and student, between the past and the present. Cole felt a newfound determination settle over him, an unshakable resolve to follow the path his grandfather had begun. As he stood to leave, Dr. Kobe reached out, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Remember, Cole, whatever you find, approach it with respect. Knowledge is a powerful thing, but it must be wielded wisely. Explore, question, seek the truth, but don't let it consume you." Cole nodded, the weight of the words sinking into his mind. "Thank you, Dr. Kobe. I'll remember that." Dr. Kobe's gaze softened, his expression one of quiet pride. "Good. Now go on and keep me posted on your discoveries. Who knows, perhaps you're on the brink of something that will change the way we see the world." Cole gave him a grateful smile, feeling the encouragement in every word. As he walked out of the classroom, the camera safely tucked in his bag, he felt as though a door had opened, revealing a path that only he could follow. The mysteries of other dimensions, the strange glimpses he'd seen through the camera, all of it lay before him, waiting to be uncovered. And as he stepped into the hallway, his thoughts racing with the possibilities, he knew he was ready to face whatever lay ahead, armed with the knowledge, the curiosity, and the courage his grandfather had instilled in him. The journey had just begun, and he would pursue it with all the wonder and determination that filled his heart. Chapter 13. Bonding with Mick. The evening was quiet, the faint hum of crickets drifting through Cole's open window as he lay back on his bed, his phone glowing softly in his hand. He had been waiting all day for this, another chance to talk to Mick. Each night their conversations drew him deeper, an anchor in the growing complexity of his life, something steady to hold on to amid the mysteries he was trying to unravel. Tonight, he felt a heightened anticipation, a need to share more of himself with her, to reach beyond the surface and find common ground. He tapped the screen, opening their chat and typing a quick message. "Hey, you around?" A moment passed, and then her reply popped up, bringing a smile to his face. "Yep, right here. How's your day been?" "Crazy, honestly. I talked to my teacher about, well, let's just say about some of the stuff we've been seeing," he replied, choosing his words carefully. He still wasn't ready to dive into the full scope of his suspicions. Not yet. "Ooh, now you've got me curious," Mick replied, followed by a laughing emoji. "Did he give you any answers?" Cole hesitated, a small smile tugging at his lips. "He said I should approach it scientifically. Basically, keep a record of everything. Treat it like a study." "That sounds actually kind of smart," Mick responded, and he could almost hear the grin in her tone. "Guess you're a scientist now, huh?" "Guess so," he replied, chuckling softly. "What about you? What's new in your world?" There was a pause before she responded, her words taking on a more thoughtful tone. "Not much, honestly. Just the usual. Sometimes it feels like every day here is the same, you know?" "Yeah, I get that," Cole typed back. "Sometimes I feel like Tremble's stuck in this weird loop, like everything just repeats." "Maybe we're both living in the Twilight Zone," she replied, sending a laughing emoji. "Or maybe it's just that we're both secretly longing for something bigger, something outside our everyday lives." Cole's chest tightened, her words resonating with him more than he cared to admit. It was true. He'd always felt a restlessness, a pull toward the unknown, a feeling that there was something more out there just waiting to be discovered. And now, with Mick, he felt as though he were finally beginning to find that something, a connection that felt both profound and thrilling. "You ever feel like you're meant for something more?" he typed, his fingers hovering over the keys as he waited for her response. "All the time," she replied, almost instantly. "I don't know how to explain it, but it's like there's this part of me that's searching, always looking for something I can't quite name. It's kind of weird, I guess." "It's not weird," he replied, his tone earnest. "I feel that too. Like, maybe there's a place out there where I actually belong, where I'm supposed to be." Their conversation slowed, a quietness settling over the words as they both absorbed the unspoken connection between them. He imagined her lying in her own bed, staring up at the ceiling, feeling the same strange pull that he did, as though the distance between them didn't matter, as though they were both reaching out through the darkness, finding each other in a place that went beyond words. "What's your family like?" he asked, eager to learn more about her life, to piece together the little details that made up her world. Mick's response came slowly, each word chosen carefully. "It's just me and my mom, really. My dad, well, he passed away a while ago." Cole's chest tightened, a pang of empathy filling him. "I'm sorry, Mick. I didn't know." "It's okay," she replied, and he sensed a quiet strength in her words, a resilience that spoke to a part of her he hadn't yet seen. "It's been a while. My mom's pretty amazing, though. She's my best friend, really. She taught me pretty much everything I know." Cole's heart swelled with admiration. She sounds incredible. I'm glad you have her. Me too, Mick replied, a warmth in her words that made him smile. What about you? Any siblings? He chuckled, feeling a familiar fondness as he thought of Suzi. Yeah, a sister. Her name's Suzi. She's kind of obsessed with ghost hunting. She actually dragged me into a paranormal investigation the other night. Mick's response came quickly, filled with laughter. No way! She sounds awesome! Did you find any ghosts? Sort of, he replied, grinning. We saw this shadowy figure in the yard, and Suzi was convinced it was a ghost. She's been talking about the other side ever since. That sounds amazing, Mick replied, and he could sense the excitement in her words. I've never really done anything like that. Honestly, it sounds kind of thrilling. They talked for hours, their conversation flowing with a natural ease, each story revealing new glimpses into their lives. Cole told her about Tremble, about the small-town quirks and the familiar faces he saw every day. He shared stories of his late-night study sessions, his fascination with science, and the comfort he found in the library, surrounded by books that held the answers to questions he hadn't yet asked. Mick, in turn, painted a picture of her own world, a quiet, close-knit community where people took care of one another, where everyone knew each other's names. She described evenings spent walking under starlit skies, moments of solitude where she felt connected to something larger, something she couldn't quite define. Sometimes I feel like the stars are calling to me, she typed, her words filled with a sense of wonder. Like they're waiting for me to reach out, to touch something beyond myself. Cole's heart pounded, her words echoing his own thoughts, his own desire for something greater. I know exactly what you mean, he replied, his tone earnest. It's like there's this whole universe out there, just waiting for us to find it. Their conversation drifted into a comfortable silence, both of them absorbing the connection that had grown between them, a bond that went beyond the ordinary. For the first time in his life, Cole felt understood, as though he'd found someone who shared his hopes, his dreams, his yearning for something more. After a while, Mick sent a message that made his heart skip. Hey, Cole. I'm really glad we met. Talking to you, it feels like coming home. He stared at the words, a warmth spreading through his chest, a feeling of comfort and belonging that he hadn't known he needed. His fingers trembled slightly as he typed his response, pouring his feelings into each word. I feel the same way, Mick. It's like I've known you forever. Her reply was immediate, simple yet filled with a depth of emotion that left him breathless. Maybe we're just meant to find each other, no matter where we are. The words hung between them, a quiet promise that transcended the miles that separated them, a feeling that went beyond anything he could explain. They were connected, two souls reaching across the darkness, finding solace in each other's presence, each word a bridge that brought them closer. As the night wore on, they continued to talk, sharing memories, dreams and hopes. Cole felt as though he were stepping into a story, a world where the boundaries of reality faded, where he and Mick existed together in a place that felt untouched by time. They were two people from worlds that didn't quite fit, yet together they felt whole, complete, as though they had found the missing pieces of themselves in each other. When they finally said goodnight, Cole lay back on his bed, his heart full, his mind racing with the possibilities of what might come. He didn't know where this journey would lead him, didn't know what secrets lay hidden within the camera, but he knew one thing for certain. Whatever path he took, whatever mysteries he uncovered, he wanted Mick by his side. And as he drifted off to sleep, his last thought was of her, of the bond they shared, a connection that felt as endless and boundless as the stars above. Chapter 14. Suzi's Major Discovery. Cole heard Suzi long before he saw her. She came barreling down the hall, her footsteps quick and excited, the familiar chime of her ghost-hunting app filling the air as she burst into his room without knocking. Her face was lit up with a mix of thrill and determination, her eyes practically glowing. "Cole!" she exclaimed, holding her phone in front of her like a prized artifact. "You're not going to believe what I've found." Cole looked up from his desk, stifling a laugh at the sight of her. Suzi's enthusiasm for ghost hunting had only intensified in recent weeks, her investigations growing more elaborate with each passing day. And now, as she waved her phone around, he could already tell she had found something she believed to be irrefutable evidence of the paranormal. "Oh yeah?" he replied, leaning back in his chair and folding his arms. "What kind of supernatural breakthrough are we talking about?" Suzi's grin widened as she thrust her phone into his hands, pointing to a faint, shadowy outline on the screen. The image was taken near the edge of their backyard, the dark silhouette of a figure barely visible against the misty background. "There!" she declared, her voice brimming with excitement. "Look, I captured it last night. That, my dear brother, is the figure from the other side. I've officially got proof." Cole squinted at the screen, suppressing the laughter bubbling up inside him. The shape was vague, more of an impression than a clear form, but he could see why she was so excited. It was eerie, even to him, though he knew enough about his own recent experiences to wonder if this ghost might actually be something else. Another strange fragment of the other dimension bleeding into their own. Still, watching her revel in her discovery, he wasn't about to burst her bubble. "Wow," he said, doing his best to keep his tone serious. "That's pretty convincing, Suzi." "Right." She looked at him, her face flushed with pride. "I knew you'd get it. This is just the start. I mean, if there's one ghost, there's got to be more. I could be sitting on a goldmine of paranormal activity here." Cole bit back a grin, imagining what she might say if she knew the ghosts she was so intent on finding might actually be something far stranger. "So, what's your next step, ghost hunter Suzi?" "Planning a séance in the backyard." Suzi's eyes sparkled. "Maybe. I was thinking of doing some EVP recordings tonight. I read that ghosts sometimes respond to sound waves we can't hear. This might be my chance to catch them saying something." "Sounds intense," Cole replied, feigning a mix of awe and admiration. "You're really going all in on this, aren't you?" "Absolutely," she said, straightening with pride. "I know you think it's all just a joke, but I'm serious, Cole. I can feel it. There's something out there, something just waiting for us to see it." For a moment, Cole considered telling her the truth, sharing the strange glitches he'd seen through his camera, the images of another dimension, and the possibility that what she was capturing wasn't a ghost at all, but a glimpse of something else. But he stopped himself, watching the way her face lit up as she talked about her theories, the thrill of discovery clear in her eyes. It was a strange thing, this secret he carried. He felt as though he were balancing two worlds, his own reality and the one he shared with Mick, a place that defied explanation. And in the midst of it all was Suzi, unknowingly capturing fragments of that other dimension, piecing together clues without ever realizing the full scope of what she was seeing. He didn't want to take that excitement from her, not yet. "Well," he said, handing her back the phone, "I guess I'd better get used to having a paranormal investigator for a sister." Suzi grinned, tucking the phone into her pocket. "You're just lucky to be related to the next big name in ghost hunting, Cole. When I go on TV and make a documentary about this, I'll make sure to mention you in the credits." He chuckled, shaking his head. "I'll hold you to that. But in the meantime, don't go getting yourself haunted, okay?" She rolled her eyes, waving off his concern. "Please, if anything, I'll be haunting you, making sure you never forget the day I discovered proof of the other side." With that, she swept out of his room, her footsteps quick and determined as she headed toward the backyard, no doubt ready to start her next round of investigations. Cole leaned back, smiling to himself as he imagined her setting up her phone, calling out questions to the shadows, waiting for a response from the ghosts she was so convinced were watching. But beneath his amusement, there was a thread of unease. If Suzi continued her explorations, if she got closer to understanding what she was really seeing, he wasn't sure how he'd handle it. The truth was a labyrinth of questions, mysteries that even he hadn't unravelled. And yet, he couldn't deny the strange thrill of it all, the excitement that came from knowing he was standing on the edge of something extraordinary, something that stretched beyond the limits of his own understanding. Later that night, Cole wandered into the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water and leaning against the counter as he looked out the window. In the backyard, he could see Suzi crouched near the tree line, her flashlight darting through the darkness, her face illuminated by the glow of her phone screen as she snapped pictures and whispered questions into the night. "Can you hear me?" she called, her voice barely audible through the glass. "If you're here, give me a sign." Cole stifled a laugh, watching her with a mix of admiration and exasperation. Her dedication was impressive, her belief unwavering. She moved with purpose, her eyes wide with excitement as she adjusted her phone, glancing around as though expecting a ghostly figure to appear at any moment. A faint chill crept over him, and he shivered, reminded of the strange presence he'd seen through the camera, the shadows that seemed to slip between worlds. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something watching them, something lingering just beyond the edge of perception. But whether it was a ghost or something far stranger, he couldn't say. After a few minutes, Suzi let out a triumphant cheer, her voice echoing through the stillness. She held up her phone, grinning as she examined the screen, clearly thrilled with whatever she'd captured. Cole raised his eyebrows, intrigued. He set his glass down and stepped outside, his footsteps soft on the grass as he approached her. "What do you find this time?" he asked, keeping his tone light. Suzi turned, her face lit with excitement. "I caught something moving in the background. Look, right here." She thrust the phone at him, pointing to a shadowy shape in the distance, faint and blurred but unmistakable. Cole studied the image, feeling a familiar sense of wonder mixed with uncertainty. The shape was strange, almost ethereal, as though it were caught between worlds, half visible, slipping in and out of focus. He felt a shiver run through him, a quiet thrill that reminded him of his own encounters with the other dimension. "Pretty impressive," he said, handing the phone back to her. "Looks like you're onto something, Suzi." She beamed, her pride palpable. "I know, right? I'm telling you, Cole, there's more out there than we can see, and I'm going to find it." Cole smiled, her words echoing his own thoughts, the same drive that had pushed him to explore the camera, to look deeper into the mysteries that lay hidden in his own world. Suzi's determination, her belief in the unseen, mirrored his own journey, her curiosity a reflection of his own search for answers. "Just be careful, okay?" he said, his voice soft, almost hesitant. "Sometimes, the truth is stranger than we think." She laughed, giving him a playful nudge. "Don't worry, big brother, I've got this. Besides, you know I'm the bravest ghost hunter Tremble's ever seen." As he watched her head back toward the house, her phone clutched tightly in her hand, Cole felt a quiet admiration for her, a pride in the way she pursued her passion without hesitation. She was fearless, unafraid of the mysteries that lay beyond the ordinary, willing to confront whatever waited in the darkness. And as he stood alone in the quiet of the night, his gaze drifting toward the shadows at the edge of the yard, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were both on the cusp of something extraordinary, a discovery that went beyond their own world, a truth that lay hidden within the fabric of reality itself. For now, he would let her chase her ghosts, let her believe in the magic of the unknown. But deep down, He knew that one day they might both find themselves standing face to face with something far stranger, something that would challenge everything they knew, and he wasn't sure if he was ready for what that might mean. Chapter 15. The Realization. Cole lay sprawled on his bed, staring at his phone's screen as he read over Mick's latest message. He couldn't shake the growing feeling that something profound lay hidden in their conversations, something just out of reach, waiting to be uncovered. Their worlds had felt oddly distinct, yet familiar enough that he'd never questioned them. Until now. "What did you say your town is called again?" Mick had asked a few minutes ago, almost casually, like she was turning over the same questions he was. "Tremble, Missouri." "Just a small college town," he replied, feeling a faint flicker of curiosity. "What about yours?" There was a pause before her response came through, a longer silence than usual. "Thrae." He blinked, his mind turning over the unfamiliar name, feeling its weight. "Thrae?" he typed back, the letters suddenly heavy beneath his fingertips. "Yeah," Mick replied, her tone equally hesitant. "Not exactly Missouri, is it?" A strange thrill ran through him, part excitement, part bewilderment. "Thrae? Never heard of it." He let the words hang, hoping she'd explain, give him some clue as to what was unfolding between them. The screen blinked as her reply came through, short but laced with a hesitant curiosity. "It's the only world I know." Cole sat up, his pulse quickening as he reread her words. "Wait, are you saying Thrae is your planet? Like, not Earth?" The silence that followed felt like a chasm. His eyes were glued to the screen, his heart pounding as he waited for her response, every second stretching out in a tension-filled eternity. Finally, her reply appeared. "I guess that's what I'm saying. I always thought you were from Thrae too, just a different part of it. But if you're on Earth, then—" Cole felt a chill run down his spine, a weight settling in his chest as the realization dawned on him. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, not just a strange coincidence or miscommunication. They were in different worlds, different dimensions. "Are you serious?" he typed, his fingers trembling as he sent the message. "You're really not on Earth?" "Yes, Cole," came her response, and he could almost feel her own wonder and trepidation seeping through the screen. "And you're not on Thrae?" The words hung in the air, a truth neither of them could ignore any longer. They were speaking across dimensions, bridging worlds separated by space, time, or something entirely different. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying, a realization that changed everything he'd ever believed possible. "This is—" he began, struggling to find the words. "This is insane. How is this even happening?" Mick's reply came quickly, filled with the same mix of awe and disbelief. "I don't know. I don't understand it either, but it's real. It has to be." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the discovery settling over them like a veil. Cole felt his mind reeling, 100 questions spiraling through his thoughts, each one more impossible than the last. He couldn't believe it, yet he couldn't deny the evidence. The strange glitches on the camera, the way her world differed so fundamentally from his own. And now, this revelation. "So, you're telling me that Thrae is like a parallel version of Earth?" he asked, his fingers moving slowly, each word heavy with uncertainty. "Maybe?" Mick replied, the uncertainty echoing his own. "I don't know what it is, but it's like they're two versions of the same place, split by something." Cole took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, to ground himself in the impossible truth they'd uncovered. "Okay, let's start with what we know." He paused, collecting his thoughts. "What's your Thrae like? Describe it to me." Mick's reply came, thoughtful and careful. It's quiet. Peaceful, mostly. We don't have cities or stores like you mentioned. Everything we need, we make ourselves, like I told you before. People here are self-sufficient. It's like we're more connected to the world around us. Cole frowned, absorbing her words, feeling the growing differences that separated their worlds. Thrae sounded like something out of a dream, a place untouched by the complexities of modern life, yet somehow more advanced than anything he'd ever known. "And there's no economy?" he asked, almost in disbelief. "No, not like what you've described. People just share what they have. We don't need money to survive here. We're more focused on our resources, and everyone contributes in their own way." Cole let out a slow breath, feeling both awed and bewildered. It was a world that defied the structure he'd grown up in, a place that felt like a parallel reality, as if everything familiar had been tilted, twisted, and rearranged into something unrecognizable. "And you thought Earth was like that too?" he typed, a hint of humour slipping into his words. Mick replied with a laughing emoji. "I guess I did. I thought Earth was just another name for a part of Thrae, like another region or something. I didn't know. Well, I didn't know there were other planets like this." They fell into silence again, each of them absorbing the enormity of their discovery. Cole's mind buzzed with possibilities, the boundaries of his world suddenly feeling flimsy, malleable. He remembered Dr. Kobe's lectures on alternate dimensions, the idea that worlds could exist side by side, layered in ways no one fully understood. But he'd never imagined that he'd actually be talking to someone from another world, someone who shared his thoughts, his dreams, his hopes. "This is incredible," he typed, a surge of excitement rising within him. "Do you realize what this means?" "It means we've broken the laws of physics," Mick replied, her words laced with awe. "We're talking across dimensions, Cole. No one has ever done this before. That we know of." His heart raced, the thrill of discovery filling him with a sense of purpose, a drive to uncover the truth of what lay between their worlds. But beneath the excitement, he felt a quiet fear, a hesitation that he couldn't quite shake. This discovery wasn't just thrilling, it was dangerous, a revelation that could reshape everything they knew, everything they understood about reality. "So where do we go from here?" he asked, his tone serious. "Do we keep talking? Try to learn more?" "I think so," Mick replied, her words filled with determination. "I mean, we've already crossed into each other's worlds, in a way. There's no going back now. We have to keep going, keep exploring, see what else we can learn." Cole felt a surge of relief at her words, a comfort in knowing that she shared his resolve, his commitment to uncovering the secrets of their worlds. Together, they would face the unknown, step by step, unraveling the mysteries that lay hidden in the fabric of reality itself. "Then let's do it," he replied, his tone resolute. "Let's figure this out, no matter what it takes." He could almost feel her smile through the screen, a warmth that transcended the distance between them, bridging the gap between their worlds. In that moment, he felt an unshakable bond with her, a connection that went beyond words, beyond dimensions. They were in this together, two explorers charting a path through the unknown, discovering truths that went beyond the boundaries of their own realities. As they continued talking, sharing details, ideas, and questions, Cole felt the thrill of discovery settle into a deeper understanding, a quiet determination that strengthened his resolve. They were on the edge of something extraordinary, something that would change everything they knew. And as he lay back, his thoughts racing, he knew one thing for certain. This is a new beginning. Chapter 16. Theory of Dimensions. Cole's world had narrowed to a single driving focus. Days blended into nights as he threw himself into research, his mind consumed with theories and possibilities, each one adding a layer to the mystery that lay before him. The reality of speaking to Mick, Someone from another dimension had sparked a need within him, a desire not just to understand, but to uncover the truth hidden within the depths of quantum mechanics, parallel worlds, and the boundaries of existence itself. On an unusually quiet afternoon, Cole found himself in Dr. Kobe's office, the dim light casting soft shadows across the rows of bookshelves. The room smelled of aged paper and faint traces of chalk dust, a comforting reminder of the countless hours he'd spent here listening to Dr. Kobe discuss the mysteries of the universe. Today, however, was different. Today, he came armed with questions, each one pressing at the limits of his understanding, each one leading him closer to a truth he could barely grasp. Dr. Kobe looked up from his desk as Cole entered, a warm smile crossing his face. "Ah, Cole," he greeted, his voice carrying the gentle excitement of a man always ready to dive into the unknown. "To what do I owe this visit? You seem to have the look of a young Einstein on the brink of a breakthrough." Cole smiled, though he felt the weight of his questions pressing on him. I wanted to ask you more about your theories on dimensions," he said carefully, choosing each word as though it held the potential to change everything. Dr. Kobe's eyebrows lifted, and he leaned back in his chair, his gaze sharp with interest. "Dimensions, you say?" He gestured to a nearby chair, encouraging Cole to sit. "Tell me, what's on your mind?" Cole took a deep breath, settling into the chair across from Dr. Kobe's desk. He leaned forward, his hands resting on the edge as he spoke. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said in class, about dimensions existing alongside each other, stacked like layers we can't see. But I guess I'm trying to understand how they work. How they could exist separately but still touch, like there's a way to reach them." Dr. Kobe's face lit up, his eyes gleaming with the kind of excitement only an academic could feel when discussing a beloved theory. "Ah, now that is a question worth asking," he said, his tone growing animated. "Let me tell you, Cole, this idea of parallel dimensions has fascinated scientists for decades, even centuries. We theorize that dimensions coexist, sometimes even overlap, each operating with its own set of physical laws, each as real as our own." He paused, his expression thoughtful as he considered Cole's question more deeply. "Imagine the universe as a vast layered book," he continued, his hands moving as though shaping the ideas in the air. "Each page is a separate reality, a distinct world with its own set of rules, its own history. But sometimes, just sometimes, those pages might brush against each other, causing a faint impression, a ghost of a reality to seep through. And that's where things get interesting." Cole's mind raced, each word sparking new connections, new questions. The idea was daunting and thrilling, a revelation that stretched the limits of his understanding. "So, you think it's possible? That there could be a way to communicate between dimensions?" Dr. Kobe chuckled, though there was a serious undertone to his laughter. "Possible? In theory, yes. But it would require a unique set of circumstances, a bridge, so to speak, between these realities. Quantum mechanics, with all its uncertainty, suggests that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously. It's only when we observe them, when we focus our attention, that they collapse into a single reality. Theoretically, if someone could harness that power, they might be able to peek through the veil between worlds." Cole's heart pounded, the pieces clicking into place as he listened. He thought of the strange blips and glitches in the camera, the way it seemed to capture fragments of Mick's world, as though it were peering through a crack in the very fabric of reality. "So, if someone had a device, something that could interact with particles on that level, they could, I don't know, maybe send signals?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the excitement building within him. Dr. Kobe leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. "Precisely. It's all theoretical, of course, but if such a device existed, it would need to be something capable of detecting and interacting with particles at a quantum level. The slightest variation in energy, the tiniest shift in position, could reveal glimpses of another world. Imagine the possibilities. Communication across dimensions would be like translating the untranslatable, finding meaning in the chaos of particles. Cole absorbed Dr. Kobe's words, his mind whirring with ideas. The camera his grandfather had left him was old, modified beyond recognition, a device that seemed to operate on rules of its own. Could his grandfather have known? Could he have been working on something that defied the limits of science? Dr. Kobe's voice softened, his gaze becoming almost reverent. You know, Cole, there was a time when humanity believed the Earth was the center of the universe, that everything revolved around us. It took daring minds, people willing to look beyond the accepted truths, to discover that we were just one small part of something infinitely larger. In the same way, perhaps we're only beginning to scratch the surface of what reality truly is. Cole felt a quiet awe fill him, a sense of purpose that went beyond himself, beyond the questions that had driven him here. So, you think it's our job to explore it, to push those boundaries? Dr. Kobe smiled, a glimmer of pride in his gaze. Yes, Mr. Noble, I do. And perhaps one day someone like you will be the one to tear down those walls, to see beyond what we've always believed possible. The words settled over Cole, filling him with a determination he hadn't felt before. He was no longer just a curious student poking at the edges of a mystery. He was an explorer, a seeker of truth, someone who carried the legacy of discovery within him. And as he looked at Dr. Kobe, he knew that he wouldn't stop until he'd uncovered the secrets that lay hidden within the camera, within the connection he shared with Mick, within the fabric of dimensions themselves. As he rose to leave, Dr. Kobe reached out, his hand resting on Cole's shoulder in a gesture of quiet encouragement. Remember, Cole, he said, his voice gentle. Discovery is both a blessing and a burden. Treat it with respect, approach it with humility. You may not always understand what you find, but that doesn't mean it isn't worth pursuing. Cole nodded, his gaze steady. Thank you, Dr. Kobe. I'll remember that. With one last nod, he left the office, his mind buzzing with newfound clarity, each step filled with purpose. He was no longer in the dark, no longer questioning his own understanding. Dr. Kobe's words had given him direction, a framework to explore the mysteries that lay before him. As he walked through the quiet hallways, he knew that this was only the beginning of his journey. The theories, the discoveries, the mysteries, they were all part of something larger, something that would challenge everything he knew about reality. And as he stepped out into the crisp afternoon air, he felt a thrill of excitement, a sense of wonder that filled him with the certainty that he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The truth was waiting for him, hidden within the layers of dimensions, a truth that would change everything. And he was ready to find it. Chapter 17. Exploring Thrae. Cole sat cross-legged on his bed, his laptop glowing softly on his lap, though his attention wasn't on the screen. His mind drifted to the conversations he'd had with Mick, each one painting a picture of a world so different from his own, yet close enough to make him ache with curiosity. Thrae was a mystery, a place unlike any he'd known, and the more he learned, the more he wanted to understand it. He picked up his phone, his fingers hovering over the screen before he typed out a message. Hey Mick, are you free to chat? I want to know more about Thrae. The reply was almost immediate, a testament to the connection they shared, a silent understanding that had only grown stronger since they'd discovered the truth about their dimensions. Of course, she replied. What do you want to know? Cole leaned back, considering his questions carefully. There was so much he wanted to ask, so much he needed to understand about this world that was like his own, but fundamentally different. He began simply, knowing there would be layers to unfold. I guess, just tell me about everyday life. You said before that you don't have big cities or stores like we do here. What's it like to live in a place like that? There was a pause, as though Mick were thinking deeply, choosing her words carefully. When she replied, her words came slowly, carrying a sense of reflection. It's peaceful, she began, her words almost hesitant. Life on Thrae is quiet, I guess. People spend a lot of time outside, working on things themselves. Everything we need, we create. Food, clothes, materials. It's all made with machines that take what they need from the air, the elements around us. It sounds kind of strange when I say it out loud, but it's normal for us. Cole's eyes widened as he read, trying to imagine a world without the need for stores or factories, a place where people didn't buy or sell, but simply made what they needed. The concept was surreal, like something out of a sci-fi novel, yet Mick described it with such ease, as though it were as natural as breathing. That's incredible, he typed back, his words filled with awe. I mean, here, everything is centered around shopping, buying things, earning money. People spend their whole lives working to get things they need. But on Thrae, it sounds like it's simpler. It is, she replied, a faint trace of pride in her words. I think people here are more focused on helping each other. If you need something, you just ask, and someone will help you make it. There's no competition, no sense of needing to prove yourself. Everyone's just connected, I guess. Cole felt a pang of envy mixed with fascination. Thrae sounded almost utopian, a world without the relentless pressures and expectations he knew all too well. He couldn't imagine what it would be like to live in a society where everything was shared, where there was no need to struggle for status or wealth. And what about social media? He asked, curious to know if Thrae had anything similar to the platforms that dominated Earth. Do people use it there? Mick's reply was immediate, and he could almost sense her amusement. No, not really. I mean, we have ways of communicating, but it's more direct. People just talk face to face, you know? I think everyone here would find it weird to share their lives with strangers. We're more private, more focused on the people we actually know. Cole chuckled, imagining the baffled expressions of Thrae's inhabitants if they saw the constant stream of photos, status updates, and stories that filled his social media feeds. It was a world that thrived on connection, but in a way that was vastly different from Earth's digital obsession. So you don't post selfies or share what you had for breakfast? He typed, adding a laughing emoji. Mick sent back a laughing emoji of her own. Nope. It sounds kind of silly when you put it like that. Here, people are more likely to spend time with each other, to share things face to face. We're all about real moments, I guess. Nothing's filtered. Cole leaned back, her words filling him with a quiet wonder. Thrae felt timeless, a place untouched by the distractions and complexities that filled his world. There was a purity to it, a simplicity that felt almost mythical, like something out of a lost age. It must be nice, he wrote, his words tinged with wistfulness. To live in a place like that, where everything's real and honest. It is, she replied, and he could sense the warmth in her words, a pride she held for her world. But it has its challenges too. Sometimes it feels limited, like there's so much out there, so much we don't see. I think that's why I've always been curious about other places, other possibilities. Talking to you, it makes me feel like there's more, like I'm part of something bigger. Cole's chest tightened, her words mirroring his own feelings, the same longing for connection, for something beyond the boundaries of their worlds. They were two souls reaching across dimensions, bound by a shared curiosity, a shared desire to understand the unknown. I get it, he replied, his tone earnest. I feel the same way. It's like we're both searching for something, even if we don't know what it is. Their conversations slowed, each of them absorbing the differences and similarities between their worlds, the contrasts that shaped who they were. Cole felt a deep sense of wonder, a feeling that went beyond curiosity and into something more profound, a realization that he was learning not just about another dimension, but about himself, his own world, his own life. "What about school?" he asked, the question bubbling up as he thought about how different their lives must be. "Do you study, like we do here?" "We learn, yes," Mick replied, her tone thoughtful. "But it's less formal. People learn through doing, through helping each other. There are no grades or tests like you mentioned. It's more about gaining knowledge that's useful, things that help us work together. I guess people here don't compete the way they do in your world." Cole nodded, the idea resonating with him. Life on Earth felt like a constant race, a relentless competition where people measured their worth against each other, striving to be the best, the brightest, the most successful. But on Thrae, it sounded like people focused on what mattered most, learning, sharing, helping. It sounds like you all just work together, like there's no need to prove anything. He felt a pang of longing as he typed the words, wondering what it would be like to live in a world without the pressures and expectations he knew so well. "That's exactly it," Mick replied, her words soft but filled with conviction. "We don't need to compete. We're all just people, working toward the same goals, helping each other along the way. I think that's why I was so shocked to hear about the way people live on Earth. It sounds complicated." Cole chuckled, nodding to himself. Complicated is definitely one way to put it. They fell into a comfortable silence, both of them reflecting on the worlds that had shaped them, the experiences that defined who they were. Cole felt as though he was seeing his own life from a new perspective, viewing his world through Mick's eyes, her insights peeling back the layers of normalcy to reveal the complexities he'd never questioned. "So you really don't miss having social media?" he asked, a teasing edge in his words. Mick's response was quick, her tone light and amused. "Not one bit. Why would I want to waste time staring at a screen when there's a whole world out there to explore?" Cole laughed, a warm, genuine sound that filled the quiet of his room. "You'd be surprised how much time people here spend doing just that." Mick sent back a laughing emoji, followed by, "Maybe one day you'll get to see Thrae. I'd love to show you around, introduce you to the people here, show you what life is like." His heart skipped a beat at the thought, the image of her world filling his mind, a place where people were connected, where life was simpler, purer. The idea of seeing Thrae felt surreal, yet tantalizing, like a dream he hadn't known he'd wanted. "I'd like that," he replied, his words filled with a quiet longing. "I think I could learn a lot from your world." They continued talking, each question unveiling new aspects of Thrae, new insights into a world that felt both foreign and familiar. Cole felt his fascination deepen, his understanding of Thrae growing with each word, each story. It was a world that defied everything he'd known, yet he felt an undeniable connection to it, a feeling that went beyond curiosity. As the night wore on, their conversation slowed, both of them lost in the quiet comfort of their connection, the shared understanding that bridged the distance between them. Cole felt a deep sense of peace, a feeling of belonging that he hadn't expected, a sense that he was part of something larger, something that transcended the boundaries of his own world. When they finally said goodnight, he lay back on his bed, his thoughts filled with images of Thrae, of the life Mick had described, a place of connection, of simplicity, a world where people lived not for themselves, but for each other. Chapter 18. Suzi's Growing Obsession. Cole had noticed the shift in Suzi's behaviour over the past few days. Her ghost-hunting enthusiasm, which had once been an endearing quirk, now seemed to consume her every moment. She moved through the house with her phone always at the ready, her gaze darting around as though she expected something to leap out of the shadows at any second. She had set up an entire corner of her room as a paranormal headquarters, where she meticulously catalogued each ghostly encounter, marking down the details with the intense focus of a true investigator. It might have been funny, a sibling phase he could laugh about later, but something else had started to happen. Odd things that went beyond what even Suzi could explain. Just this morning, he'd found the silverware drawer half open, the spoons and forks inexplicably scattered across the counter. A few days ago, he'd heard footsteps in the hall late at night, only to find no one there when he opened his door. He was beginning to wonder if there was something to Suzi's hauntings, something linked to his camera and the world he shared with Mick. Sitting at the kitchen table one evening, he watched Suzi as she meticulously examined a recent photo on her phone. Her brow was furrowed, lips pressed in concentration as she swiped through her images, her finger pausing on each shadowy shape, each blur that she deemed evidence. "Cole, look at this," she said, sliding her phone toward him with a triumphant smile. "You can't tell me that doesn't look like a figure." He took the phone, glancing down at the image she had pulled up. Sure enough, a shadowy outline hovered in the background, faint but distinct. It was a figure. He couldn't deny that. But it looked more like a wisp, a fragment, as though it were caught between worlds. That's something, Suzi," he replied, trying to keep his tone light. But he couldn't shake the unease growing in his chest, the feeling that she was inching dangerously close to discovering something she might not be ready to understand. "It's more than just something," she insisted, snatching the phone back. "I've been hearing things too. Last night I heard someone whispering, clear as day, and the cupboards in my bathroom keep opening on their own. I think I'm close to breaking through." Cole felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted to tell her it was nothing, that she was overthinking things, but the memories of the unexplained noises, the moving objects, the shadows that seemed to flit in and out of sight held him back. There was no denying that something strange was happening, and the more he thought about it, the more he began to wonder if his camera was the source. He took a deep breath, deciding it was time to probe a little. "Suzi, don't you think it's a little weird that all this started happening right after I got Grandpa's camera?" She looked at him, her eyes narrowing in thought. "What do you mean?" "Well, I mean, I've had this camera for a few weeks now, and since then, all this paranormal stuff started. Maybe it's, I don't know, triggering something." He tried to keep his tone casual, but he could see the spark of interest in her eyes, the way her gaze shifted toward the camera sitting on the counter. "Are you saying the camera is haunted?" she asked, her voice a mix of excitement and intrigue. "I'm not saying it's haunted," he replied carefully, "but maybe it's interacting with something, like a portal maybe, or a gateway." Suzi's eyes widened and she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You think it's opening some kind of portal? That would explain everything. The noises, the shadows, all of it." Cole felt a pang of regret as he saw the excitement in her face. He hadn't meant to encourage her, but now she was practically buzzing with energy, her mind racing with theories. She reached for the camera, her fingers hovering over it as though it held some powerful secret. "Suzi, maybe we shouldn't mess with it too much," he said, a warning in his tone. "Sometimes things are better left alone." But she shook her head, dismissing his caution. "Are you kidding? This is the chance of a lifetime. If this camera is a portal, then we could actually see what's on the other side." Her enthusiasm was infectious, but Cole couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something they didn't fully understand. He thought of Mick, of the world of Thrae and the mysteries it held. He wasn't sure how the camera worked or why it seemed to connect their worlds, But he was certain of one thing. There was more to it than Suzi realized. Over the next few days, the activity in their house only grew. Every morning he'd find something out of place. Drawers half open, books knocked off the shelves, even a faint footprint on the dusty floor near the basement stairs. Suzi was convinced it was a sign, evidence of the spirits that she believed were drawn to her investigations. But Cole had a different theory, one that gnawed at him in the quiet hours of the night. He began to suspect that the camera wasn't just a tool, it was a bridge that connected his world with Mick's, a fragile link that allowed glimpses of Thrae to seep into their own dimension. And with each use, it seemed that link grew stronger, the veil between their worlds thinning, allowing fragments of Thrae to slip through. One night, as he lay in bed, he was jolted awake by the sound of rattling, a sharp metallic clang that echoed through the silence. He shot up, his heart pounding as he looked around his darkened room. The noise was coming from the kitchen, a steady clattering that sounded like silverware being tossed around. He crept down the hall, his footsteps silent as he approached the kitchen door. Peering inside, he felt a chill sweep over him. The drawer that held the silverware was wide open, its contents scattered across the counter and floor, forks and spoons lying in disarray. But what unnerved him most was the unmistakable shimmer in the air, a faint distortion that seemed to ripple as though the very fabric of reality were shifting. He blinked, and the shimmer vanished, leaving only the mess in its wake. His heart pounded, a mixture of fear and fascination coursing through him. He knew now that his suspicions were right. The camera was more than just a device. It was a key, a conduit that connected two worlds. Cole! He jumped, spinning around to find Suzi standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with excitement. She stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the scattered silverware, her expression a mixture of wonder and triumph. "Did you see it?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Did you see the ghost?" He hesitated, unsure of how to answer. I don't think it's a ghost, Suzi." She looked at him, her excitement giving way to confusion. "What do you mean? What else could it be?" He took a deep breath, his mind racing as he tried to explain. I think it's something else. Something from another world, maybe. Like there's a connection between here and somewhere else." Her eyes widened, and she glanced back at the scattered silverware, a look of awe crossing her face. "So, you're saying this is a portal? That we're seeing into another dimension?" Cole nodded, the weight of the truth settling over him. "Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is." For a moment, they stood in silence, the reality of his words sinking in. Suzi's obsession with ghosts, her relentless pursuit of the paranormal, had led her closer to the truth than either of them could have imagined. But as they stared at the scattered silverware, Cole felt a sense of foreboding, a quiet warning that they were treading into dangerous territory. "Suzi, I don't think we should keep messing with this," he said, his voice soft but firm. "We don't know what we're dealing with. If this really is a portal, then we don't know what could come through." She hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing her face, but her resolve returned, her gaze steady. "Maybe that's true, but isn't that why we have to keep going? To find out what's really out there?" Cole didn't have an answer, but as he looked at her, he saw the same curiosity, the same drive that had pushed him to explore the camera, to connect with Mick. They were both driven by a need to understand, to uncover the mysteries that lay beyond the limits of their world. But with that drive came a responsibility, a duty to tread carefully, to respect the boundaries they were crossing. As they cleaned up the mess, placing each piece of silverware back into the drawer, Cole couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of something vast, something that defied explanation. And though he was drawn to it, fascinated by the possibilities, he knew that they were venturing into unknown territory, a place where answers were few and risks were many. For now, he would let Suzi have her hauntings, let her believe in the magic of the unknown. But deep down, he knew that the truth was far more complex, a mystery that reached beyond the boundaries of their world and into the heart of something infinite, something that would change everything they understood. And as he glanced at the camera, he felt a quiet resolve settle within him. Whatever lay ahead, whatever secrets the camera held, he would face them with open eyes and an unshakable determination to uncover the truth, even if it meant crossing the boundaries between dimensions. Chapter 19. Brad's Growing Aggression. Cole stood by his locker, his hands clenched into fists as he stared at the scratched, faded metal. A slow, simmering tension coiled in his stomach, gnawing at him, impossible to ignore. It had been weeks of this. Small, insidious accusations whispered behind his back, looks of doubt cast by classmates who once trusted him, and at the centre of it all Brad, whose smug, charismatic smile had turned into something darker, sharper. Today had been worse than most. Earlier in the hallway, as Cole passed by, Brad had loudly declared that Cole was spreading rumours about one of the teachers. It was completely baseless, a lie that twisted his stomach with anger and frustration. He'd caught the wary looks from his classmates, the raised brows and shared whispers as he'd walked away, his face burning with humiliation. "Hey, Cole." Brad's voice cut through his thoughts, lazy and condescending. Cole looked up, his jaw tightening as Brad leaned against the row of lockers beside him. Brad's posture was casual, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth, but his eyes were cold, calculating, glittering with something malicious. "What do you want, Brad?" Cole asked, forcing his voice to remain steady. Brad shrugged, examining his fingernails as though bored. "Oh, just checking in. I mean, people have been talking. And it'd be a shame if more rumours started spreading, like, say, that you're the one behind them." Cole's blood boiled, his fists clenching tighter. He knew exactly what Brad was doing, how he was trying to paint him as some kind of troublemaker, a bully in disguise. Brad's influence was vast. His charm had always been enough to pull people into his orbit, and now he was using it like a weapon, turning Cole's classmates against him, one lie at a time. "You're making things up, Brad," Cole said quietly, his voice controlled, though he could feel the anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. "People will see through you eventually." Brad's smirk widened. "Oh, maybe. But by then, who knows what'll happen? Maybe they'll get tired of you. Maybe they'll decide you're a liability. And wouldn't it be a shame if the scholarship committee found out about, oh, I don't know, your behaviour?" The words hit him like a punch to the gut. His scholarship was his ticket out, his chance to pursue his dreams, to build a future for himself. He'd worked tirelessly for it, pouring hours into his studies, sacrificing sleep and weekends to secure his place. And now Brad was dangling it over him, a weapon wrapped in a threat. "Leave me alone, Brad," Cole muttered, barely containing the anger that bubbled up with each word. Brad laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You're going to have to do better than that, Noble. People already think you're a joke. Just a matter of time before you make a mistake, and then—" He let the words hang, his meaning all too clear. With that, Brad pushed off the lockers, casting a mocking glance over his shoulder as he walked away, leaving Cole standing alone, his fists still clenched, his heart pounding. He felt trapped, the walls of the school closing in around him, suffocating, as though every glance, every whisper, every shadow was a reminder of how easily Brad could destroy everything he'd worked for. Cole took a deep, shuddering breath, willing himself to calm down, but the tension wouldn't ease. There was something else, something strange. A faint sensation pulling at him, like a whisper at the edge of his awareness. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet persistent, as though a part of him were being tugged somewhere beyond the room, beyond the school, beyond the very fabric of his world. He shook his head, trying to dispel the strange feeling, chalking it up to the stress that had been building for days. But as he walked through the crowded hallway, heading toward the library where he usually found a quiet escape, the sensation intensified. It felt like an invisible thread wrapped around him, pulling him forward, each step resonating with a quiet hum he could feel in his bones. In the library, he sank into a corner seat, trying to focus on the notes he'd brought to study. But the words blurred, his mind unable to quiet the anger, the frustration, the growing sense of dread. His hands trembled slightly as he ran his fingers over the worn pages of his notebook, the paper rough beneath his fingertips, grounding him as he fought to regain control. But the tug was still there, insistent and unrelenting. It was as though something beyond his understanding was calling to him, beckoning him to a place he couldn't see, a destination just out of reach. He felt it in his chest, a pull that seemed to reach into the depths of his soul, twisting and tugging with an urgency he couldn't explain. "What's happening to me?" he whispered to himself, the question slipping out before he could stop it. He closed his eyes, trying to focus, to understand the sensation. He'd felt something like this before, a faint echo of it when he'd first used the camera to connect with Mick. But this was stronger, more visceral, like a force he couldn't resist, a tide pulling him into an ocean he couldn't see. His phone buzzed, jolting him out of his thoughts. He glanced down, seeing a message from Mick, her words a lifeline in the midst of his confusion. "Hey, just checking in. You okay?" He hesitated, his fingers hovering over the keys as he considered his response. He didn't want to worry her, didn't want to drag her into the chaos that Brad had stirred up, but the need to connect, to share the weight of his burden, was stronger than his desire to keep it hidden. "Rough day," he replied, keeping it vague. "Brad's been on my case more than usual." Her response was immediate, her words filled with empathy. "I'm so sorry, Cole. I wish there was something I could do." A faint smile touched his lips, the warmth of her words easing the tension in his chest. Even across dimensions, she was a source of comfort, a reminder that he wasn't alone, that there was someone who understood, who cared. "It's okay," he replied. "I just feel like I'm being pulled somewhere. I know it sounds weird, but it's like this invisible thread is dragging me." He paused, uncertain if he should reveal so much, but he felt an overwhelming need to share the truth, to let her in on the strange, inexplicable sensation that had taken hold of him. "I think I get it," she replied after a moment, her words careful, thoughtful. "Sometimes I feel something similar, like there's a force connecting us, like the distance doesn't matter." Her response sent a shiver through him, a resonance that settled deep within his bones. She understood, even though she was worlds away, she understood the strange, unexplainable connection that tied them together. A bond that transcended dimensions, reaching into the core of who they were. As he read her words, the pull seemed to ease, the sensation fading into a quiet hum, a reminder of the connection that bound them, but no longer an overwhelming force. He took a deep breath, feeling a measure of peace settle over him, the weight of his frustration lifting slightly. He closed his notebook, standing up and letting the familiar silence of the library wash over him. His thoughts drifted to Brad, to the relentless torment he endured each day and the sense of injustice that burned within him. But he knew, deep down, that he couldn't let Brad's cruelty define him, couldn't let the lies and rumors and threats strip him of his sense of self. There was a power in his connection with Mick, a strength that went beyond words, beyond the constraints of their worlds. And as he walked out of the library, the weight of her words still lingering in his mind, he felt a newfound resolve settle over him. He wouldn't let Brad control his future, wouldn't let the threats and accusations steal his dreams. As he walked through the empty hallways, the strange sensation flickered again, a quiet pulse. a reminder of the connection that lay beyond the boundaries of his world. And he knew, with a certainty that went beyond reason, that he was on the cusp of something extraordinary, a discovery that would change everything he understood about himself, his world, and the dimensions that lay hidden within the shadows. Chapter 20. First Flip to Thrae. The hallway was empty, silent, except for the sound of Cole's quick footsteps as he hurried to his next class, hoping to avoid any run-in with Brad. But as he rounded the corner, there he was, leaning casually against the lockers, arms folded, a predatory smile tugging at the edges of his mouth. "Cole!" Brad called out, his voice mockingly cheerful. "I was hoping to catch you." Cole's heart sank. He stopped, gripping the straps of his backpack tightly, mentally bracing himself. "What do you want, Brad?" His voice was even, but the tremor in his hands betrayed his nerves. Brad sauntered over, closing the distance between them. He looked at Cole with a mixture of disdain and amusement. "I just wanted to see how the scholarship kid's holding up," he sneered, his voice low. "You know, people have been saying things that might make the committee think twice about giving it to someone who can't handle a little pressure." Cole swallowed hard, his pulse quickening. He forced himself to meet Brad's gaze, refusing to let his fear show. "I haven't done anything, Brad, and you know that." Brad's expression darkened, his lips curling into a smirk. "That's the thing, Cole. Perception matters, and right now everyone thinks you're just a ticking time bomb." The words hit him like a punch, the weight of them settling in his chest, suffocating him. His vision blurred slightly, his mind racing with the unfairness, the helplessness of it all. He wanted to push back, to shout, to tell Brad exactly what he thought, but he couldn't find the words. The pressure was too much, the frustration too overwhelming. In that moment, something strange happened. A sharp, pulling sensation gripped him, a force that seemed to wrap around him, tightening with each passing second. His vision darkened, and he felt as though he were being yanked backward, tumbling through something vast and endless. The noise of the hallway faded, replaced by a silence so profound it pressed in on his ears. He blinked, his surroundings coming into focus, his heartbeat pounding in his chest. But everything was different. The colours around him seemed muted, softened, as though the world itself had shifted into an unfamiliar hue. The air felt lighter, almost charged, humming with a faint energy he could feel in his bones. He stood still, disoriented, taking in his surroundings. He was no longer at school. He wasn't even sure he was in his own world. The landscape was both familiar and alien. He could make out the faint outline of buildings in the distance, structures that bore an uncanny resemblance to his own town. But there was an otherworldly quality to them, something indescribable yet undeniably different. Am I in Thrae? The thought came to him, half-formed and filled with disbelief. He looked around, trying to make sense of it, but nothing was clear. He had crossed the boundary, slipped through the cracks of reality itself. Cole's head swam with wonder and confusion as he took a tentative step forward, feeling the ground beneath his feet, solid and real, yet tingling with a faint vibration that seemed to echo through him. The air was cool, almost ethereal, as though it held secrets he couldn't quite touch. His heart raced, the thrill of discovery mingling with the fear of the unknown. Somehow he had flipped into Thrae, the world he'd only known through mixed descriptions, a world that had seemed distant, almost fictional, until now. And here he was, standing in it, breathing it, feeling the strange energy pulsing beneath his skin. He took a deep breath, trying to focus. Panic wouldn't help him now. He needed to think, to orient himself. If Thrae truly mirrored his own world, then his surroundings should, in theory, line up with his town back home. Which meant that, if he could find his way to where his house would be, he might find Mick. The thought steadied him, giving him a sense of direction. He knew the streets of his own town by heart, the way each building and landmark led to the next. If Thrae followed the same layout, he could map his way to where he thought Mick would be, to the place she called home. With a newfound determination, he set off, his footsteps echoing softly in the strange, quiet world around him. He felt like a stranger here, a traveller in an unfamiliar land, but the thought of finding Mick kept him moving forward, each step bringing him closer to her, closer to the answers he sought. As he walked, he noticed subtle differences in the landscape, details that set Thrae apart from his own world. The trees lining the path were taller, their leaves a shade of green that seemed almost iridescent, shimmering faintly in the soft light. There was a stillness here, a peace that resonated in the air, as though the world itself were alive, breathing in quiet harmony. He passed buildings that mirrored those he knew, their shapes and structures recognizable, yet altered in ways he couldn't quite place. There were no streetlights, only the soft glow of luminous stones embedded in the ground, casting a gentle, soothing light that illuminated his path. The streets were empty, silent except for the faint rustle of leaves in the breeze, a sound that seemed to echo in the vast stillness. With every step, the surreal beauty of Thrae wrapped around him, filling him with a sense of wonder and awe. This world was everything Mick had described and more, a place untouched by the chaos and noise of his own reality, a world that seemed to pulse with an energy all its own. But amidst the wonder, a pang of loneliness tugged at him. He was here, in Thrae, but he was alone, separated from the one person who could guide him through this new world. The thought of finding Mick became his anchor, a goal that kept him moving forward even as the disorientation threatened to overwhelm him. As he approached the area where he thought his neighbourhood might be, he realised that finding Mick would not be as simple as he'd hoped. The houses, though similar, bore unique characteristics, each one distinct in ways that defied the uniformity he was used to. He scanned the area, trying to pick out landmarks, anything that might guide him, but it was like piecing together a half-remembered dream, a puzzle where every piece was slightly altered. He paused, catching his breath as he looked around, his heart pounding with both excitement and apprehension. The strangeness of it all weighed on him, a reminder that he was a visitor here, a stranger in a world that was as familiar as it was alien. But as he stood there, a quiet determination filled him. He was closer to Mick than he'd ever been, closer to uncovering the truth behind the connection they shared. The journey was far from over, and he knew that challenges lay ahead, but he was ready to face them, to continue down the path that had brought him here. With a final glance at the unfamiliar houses, he set off again, his footsteps quiet and steady as he continued on his way, driven by the hope that somewhere in this strange, beautiful world, Mick was waiting.